call the Board of Trustees regular meeting Monday, August 1st, 2016 at 4 o'clock to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of agenda. Any additions or deletions?
Do you want SPW on this agenda?
I'm sorry, pardon?
SPW, their contract, was that going to be on here? It's not.
How about under new business letter D?
Okay. Oh, I thought I saw something that it was being added.
Yeah. Could be added to the audience.
Stuart Bouvet Whipple. Yeah, it's all right, something like that. Any other additions or deletions?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Clerk Keith. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of minutes, 6/6/2016.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public announcements. Any public announcements at this time?
Tomorrow's election day, so everybody, I need you to remember to come out and vote.
Okay, thank you. Public comment. Any public comment at this time? State your name for the record.
John Marino, Sierra Screen Park.
No. Is it on?
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
John Marino, Sierra Screen Park. Just letting you guys aware of the camp out that we're doing, like I did last year. I have a sheet, man.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment at this time? Consent agenda. All items listed under this consent agenda are considered routine by the Township Board and will be enacted by one motion. According to established Township meeting rules, there will be no separate discussion on these items unless a member of the board or public so requests it prior to the meeting, in which event the chair of the meeting may remove such items from the consent agenda for discussion and consideration under agenda item number 8 below. Approval of the consent agenda shall be a majority roll call vote of those present and voting.
Joey, you have a final amount?
$285,303.25. because the bills were, this meeting being so early this year, they actually were supposed to come in on Saturday when I was here.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda to include the amount of $285,303.20 for bills paid.
303.25.
25.
Oh, 25.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other question or discussion? Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Boyd,
Aye.
Attenbacher,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye. Motion passes. No items removed, no unfinished business, new business at this time. Michigan Fire Inspector Society Fall Education Conference. Is Chief present?
He's on his way.
He's on his way. Okay, anything else we can have? Let me see. Mr. White, I'll skip to you if that's all right.
Sure.
Let's go to letter B, Richmond Lenox EMS Ambulance Authority Promissory Note and Funding Agreement for Future EMS Transit Facility. Letter B.
Good afternoon. The board today is scheduled to consider a funding agreement between the Ambulance Authority and the Lenox Township, the Township of Lenox for the new transit EMS facility to be constructed on 32 Mile Road. To give the board just a quick update, for the folks that are in the audience today. This next week, advertisements will go out for the building. The bid will be open then in early part of September. We're looking at the 7th or the 8th. Would then award the bid for the building the 2nd or 3rd week of September with a demolition of the current structure on 32 Mile Road for late September and a groundbreaking on the new facility in early October. There are a couple things that could potentially delay that. We hope that neither do. But just to make everybody aware, the RFP, the request for proposal, is currently being vetted by the folks at SMART, our partners, one of our partners in this project. So as long as they don't have any issues with it, we should be able to go ahead with the bid advertisement here in this next week. If there's any issues that they have with it, we'll have to go back and readjust those before we can start the actual bid process. The other issue that that could delay us is that our engineers have at this point in time provided us an estimate of what they believe that the new facility will cost to construct. If bids came in considerably higher than those estimated amounts, we'd have to go back to the drawing board to some degree and size the building for what we can afford, if you will. And so that could, if that were to happen, I would suggest that probably we would put off actual groundbreaking until spring of 2017, because that would take us some time to make those adjustments. So that just gives us kind of an idea of where we're at. SMART through the Federal Transit Administration, or the Federal Transit Administration through SMART, I should say, did provide us the final approval for their portion of the funding, which is a little over $1 million, about a week and a half ago, which let us put all the next parts of this in motion. The funding agreement with Lenox Township is much as we've done with ambulances and other capital purchases over the last few years, was actually suggested by the township to the authority that they act, if you will, as the bank or the loan agent for a portion of the building. The agreements that you have in front of you, Mr. Jopik developed, and they've been looked at by two other attorneys, so I guess 3 attorneys and 2 auditors have now reviewed these documents. So if there's any questions specific to the legalese or language in them, I'll refer those to Mr. Jopik. But the high-level overview is that the township would provide the $2 million for the construction of this facility, and that the ambulance authority would repay that over a 25-year period bid at a rate initially set at 3%. The rate would be reviewed at the end of 5 years, or at the end of the first 5 years, to determine if there needs to be an adjustment made in that, and the adjustment would be made on the prime rate, the federal prime rate, as far as increases or decreases in that at that point in time. That kind of ensures that if interest rates go way down, can't imagine going down any further, quite honestly, we would be protected as the authority, and if the interest rates were to climb tremendously, then the township's investments in this project would be in fact protected. So with that, the township board have had the actual agreements. There's 2 agreements. One I think is referred to a funding agreement and a promissory note, and the other agreement that is in front of you is actually, what Mr. Jopik referred to as a mortgage, an actual mortgage document on the property. So I guess I would be more than happy to answer any questions that I could that the board might have, and certainly welcome any questions you might have for your attorney who actually drafted this.
Any questions for Mr. White?
I just want to make a statement for those in the audience that don't understand what all this is, because we know, because we've been looking at it for so long. As opposed to the EMS going to the bank and getting a mortgage, we're going to finance it through the actual, it's coming from the PTA revenue fund. We'll get better interest than what we're getting at the bank, and they get a better rate than what they would get if they went to the bank. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
Agreed. I hate to talk about exact numbers for things like this because things change and vary. For instance, the interest rate may change in 5 years. The EMS has never taken a loan from this township or anyone else for that matter that we didn't pay in advance. But for the purpose of the public, I think it's important for them to know how much this benefits our community. And basically by running a very simple and amortization, if this mortgage goes the full 25 years, this loan, and if the interest rate stays at 3% on that, the township will receive a little better than $800,000 on its investment in interest payments. So this is really a pretty good deal, like I say, for all involved. Less than would pay the bank. The township makes a little bit more than it would. And like I say, even if we're able, and I hope we're able, as we've done with almost all of our loans, to pay it off early, there's still considerable interest to be made, for the township on this kind of agreement.
Yeah, just to clarify that, we're less than 1% on our money, I believe. So we're making 3 times the amount we normally would on our own money and paying ourselves back.
This was budgeted for, we talked about it long before the budget came into place. It was placed in the budget.
Any other questions? Like Mr. White, I'll skip right into letter C then, and if there's any objections to that. If you-
I didn't know if you want me to review both, if you want to make a motion on this and then make a motion on the next one, whatever you'd like to
Make a
do.
motion on this. Jeff, because there's no date on this, really isn't the clean copy. We're gonna have our actual date of when you wanna go into this, right? It's not today.
What we did in this document at this point in time is the document itself is agreed upon and can be signed with today's date. The date that we indicated for the repayments to begin are January 1st of this next year. We had already set aside money to begin repayment even before the building is built. So we intend to begin repaying. Sometimes with a construction note, you would wait till the end of the project to begin that repayment. But since we are connected, if you will, the township owns the authority, we just set a repayment date so we could get the document, completed and done as the 1st of January, knowing that we're going to see the project through to completion. So. So unless Mr. Jopik has an issue with that, we can certainly look at that, during the
Jopik?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with it. I would reflect that it would be signed today. I think that the intent is to sign it after the meeting this evening, or this afternoon here, get this all in place. The mortgage would then have to be recorded. That can be recorded at a later date. The only other thing is the payments are going to begin January 15th.
January 5th, yes, we put it for the 15th because we always have this first, that's correct, thank you. I said the first, and it's actually the 15th because we always seem to have this juggle of checks going back and forth on the first of the month, so.
That was me. That's exactly what I said to Steve. Okay, I make a motion to approve going into a mortgage agreement with the Richmond Lenox EMS Ambulance Authority for the construction of the new Ambulance Authority building and smart garage.
That would include the funding agreement and promissory note that's represented.
That would include the
Thank you.
funding agreement and promissory note.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion made by Clerk Keith, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other questions or discussion? I would like to get a roll call on this one too, because
And I do have to, coming from the Pine Tree Acres Revenue Fund. I want to amend the motion to include coming from the
Thank
Pine
you.
Tree Acres Revenue Fund.
Any other questions, additions?
Support.
Once again, motion made by Clerk Keith, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Roll call, please.
Boyd,
Aye.
Attenbacher.
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Trump.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. White.
And then the next item that you're scheduled to look at today is the replacement of one of our aging ambulances. We have a 2011 ambulance that we had on a promissory note with the township. In fact, the check went out today's check run. The early repayment for an ambulance that we currently have under note with you that was actually not due for payoff until just after the 1st of 2017. We would like to replace that note, if you will, with the note for a new ambulance to be purchased. If this agreement is approved, it'll be purchased later this afternoon, if you will, or at least ordered later this afternoon. An ambulance takes about 5 months to build from the time we turn in the purchase order on it. What you have before you today is a promissory note and funding and security agreement for that ambulance in the amount of $169,967, and with to be repaid over 72 months or sooner with a 2.85% rate of return. So with that, you have those documents in front of you. These documents, Mr. Jopik had put together a similar document a year ago. Basically, we simply went through that document that was Mr. Jopik's, changed the appropriate dates and information on the actual vehicle itself, and returned that to you today.
Any questions for Mr. White?
Make a motion to approve the promissory note with Richmond Lenox EMS in the amount of $169,967 for the purchase of a new ambulance.
Support.
What do I need to add?
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other questions or discussion?
We just need to make sure that the motion includes both the security agreement and the promissory note. They're two documents that need to be approved.
So moved.
Thank you.
And it's coming from the Pine
Pine
Tree
Tree
Acres.
Acres. Okay. So moved.
Support.
Once again, motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Treasurer Attenbacher. Any other questions or discussion? Once again, do roll call on this, please.
Boyd,
Aye.
Attenbacher.
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Trump.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, because we don't get a chance to get up in front of you always anymore with the new consent agenda format. After tomorrow, the complexion of this board begins to change. And that changes because a couple of our board members have decided not to run for positions that they currently hold. So on behalf of all of us at the EMS, I just want to thank you all for your support. This board has a tremendous legacy in the area, particularly of EMS. This board has a legacy of seeing a community transit operation start with a single vehicle and a few transports a year to operating 10 vehicles a day and transporting almost 30,000 riders at no cost to anyone who rides in service. This board has a legacy of ensuring that residents of this township don't have to look in their wallet when they call for an ambulance, because they've ensured that those bills are paid. And so if somebody's having chest pain, they'll have to first say, I don't know if I have the money or not to go to the hospital. And so finally, really, the board's true legacy, I think, is that of saving lives. And no one will ever be able to take that away from you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And Jeff forgot to say that it also means that he is now the longest serving employee of the township.
That means the oldest too? Just curious.
Letter A, Chief. Michigan Fire Inspector Society Fall Education.
We give you my monthly report. Use my attorney tied up with sales and truck.
Thank you.
Sent you a letter dated last week, referenced the upcoming Fall Inspectors Conferences of one of the two conferences that I go to every year, get my continuing education for certification as a state fire inspector. So it's very simply laid out in my letter. If there are any questions, I'll take them right now.
So the total is $661.75?
Correct.
That's room, board. Are you staying?
Absolutely. Yep. It's everything except dinner. And one of the nice dinners part of, because we have installation of state officers, so dinner is included with one meal.
Make a motion to approve the Fall Fire Inspectors Conference in the amount of $661.75.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Clerk Keith. Any questions for Chief? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. One quick note for the entire board and for the audience. The run count this year is extremely high. I did the numbers this morning, and we are up 23% over last year. 23%. Jeff can attest to this. On Saturday, he had 6 runs in a row at the same time, and 3 of those were ours. So we've been extremely busy, and month of July this year, we set an all-time monthly record at the fire department. So 63 runs, or our average month is 35 to 40. So just letting you all know. Thank you.
Thank you. Letter D, Stewart, Hovey, and Whipple. Audit for fiscal year July 1, 2015 to June 30th, 2016.
So Karen and I looked this up after we received a copy, and the cost is roughly about $200 higher than it was last year, so that's not too bad.
Jody, was the amount, am I looking at the right amount, 19,300? And we just need
it was 19,000, this year it's 19,300.
If I may,
Yes, Attorney
if
General.
there's going to be a motion, it should also include approval of the letter agreement that's been presented. My thought on that.
Authorization for signature.
Yes, please.
Make a motion to approve Stewart, Bouvet, and Whipple to do the audit. The amount of $19,300. We're looking for the supervisor to approve the supervisor to sign the agreement. Is that what you meant by that, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Clerk Keith. You have a roll call on this one too, please.
Boyd,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Attenbacher. Aye. Trombley.
Aye.
Sorry.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Public comment. Any public comment at this time? No public comment. Closed session. Purposes of discussing confidential attorney-client privileged communication from the attorney's office and for the purposes of discussing litigation.
I make a motion that we go into closed session at 4:29 p.m.
Support.
A motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Trustee Boyd. Any other discussion or questions?
A roll call vote, Mr. Supervisor.
Yep.
I do understand that one of the individuals is here for one of the matters that's going to be discussed in closed session and may like to make a comment before going into closed session, if that's okay with the board. So
Absolutely.
if we can have that perhaps before the motion is approved, if that's your choice, or you can wait until after if the board comes back. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were over my head. I've really got nothing to say.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Somebody saying that.
Okay. No other comments? Nothing? Roll call, please.
Boyd,
Aye.
Attenbacher. Aye. Keith.
Aye.
Trombley.
Aye. Motion passes. Closed session, 4:29.
Go back into open session at 5:25.
Support. I have a motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Trustee Boyd. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting open at 5:25. Attorney Joppick.
Yes, we met in closed session on two court-related matters. The first one was Lenox Township versus Patchnick, and presented in closed session was a final judgment settling that matter. Was presented, and I would ask if the board has any motion regarding that proposed final judgment at this time.
I make a motion to approve and authorize the township attorney to stipulate the final judgment of Lenox versus Patchnick.
Support. Motion by Clerk Keith, supported by Trustee Boyd. Any other questions or discussion regarding that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The other matter we met in closed session was regarding my attorney-client privilege communication regarding the case of Lenox Township versus Manchik. And we discussed that matter. There has been some additional information that was presented by the defendants in that matter, and I presented that to the board as well as some other information that was relevant to the item. And at this time, I think I need to do some more review of what's been presented and bring this matter back to the board for further consideration. There was discussion regarding my letter, and at this point, unless the board has any questions or comments regarding that matter, I will look into those issues further and bring the matter back for you at your next meeting.
Any questions for Attorney Javik?
And I'm not asking for any action at this time.
Okay. No further questions?
Make a motion to adjourn at 5:28.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Boyd, supported by Trustee Turchi. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting closed.